Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. So excited for you to join me today. We have another amazing guest, and they just keep on getting better, I swear. Helen Malinowski is our guest today, and she is the founder of the Somatic Integration Institute. And she just really breaks it down to all health coaches who ever imagine getting their practices up to seven figures. And she has done that. And she's a serial entrepreneur and really excited to have her share some of her tips that she jumped on the show and imparted us with. So very excited to jump into this one. As always, please leave a rating and review. It continuously helps me get awesome guests like Helen on the show and help us to continue to support all the good work that everyone out here is doing. Let's jump into it. Hey, Helen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, Omar. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Fabulous. Yeah, no, I'm really excited to talk to you. I admire all the success that you've had in your practice. I've seen how you've grown, and I think that you really parallel a lot of what health coaches are trying to accomplish. You went from over $150,000 to a million, over a million, which
Over a
is
million.
aspirational for health coaches because I think that concept is very foreign to someone just starting out. Like, I could be a millionaire doing what I love to do. So you're like the prototype of what we want to do. So I want to give you
Thank you.
a little bit of an opportunity to just tell us your origin story, how you actually got into your work, and just a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to share that. Yeah, it's interesting because I think about where I came from. I came from a family of research scientists.
Ooh.
We are down in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, Falmouth, Massachusetts, and I didn't know that there was anything other than science as like a possible career, and stumbled across this idea of psychology and that the mind found it to be such a fascinating, I found the mind to be such a fascinating thing. Time goes by. I discovered the field of social work, went to graduate school, really found my footing in the world of helping people, whether it was through case management or counseling. And again, time goes by and you're trying to make a living, you're trying to support your family, and you're trying to also find something that you feel passionate about and that brings you satisfaction and joy and purpose. And I moved into private practice because I love working with people. I love working with clients. I love working with people. And yet, I realized that I had a very hard time understanding the business side of things. I had a very hard time. I wasn't trained as a business person. I wasn't trained in finances. I wasn't trained in marketing. I also realized around the same time that I didn't have a great understanding of my own boundaries or capacity. I will say that. It became really easy for me to say, yes, I'll take on a new client. Yes, I'll take on a new client. Yes, I'll take on a new client. And all of a sudden, I'm working really long hours with a challenging client base because my work has been primarily in trauma. And I'm coming home to young kids and I'm isolated because I'm no longer working in a group with a bunch of other people. I don't have that community that I'm a part of anymore. And I realized in about 2019, actually, that what I was experiencing, irritability, fatigue, not wanting to go to work, what the Sunday dreads or the Monday dreads on Sunday night, that was burnout. I was burning myself out with something that I loved to do. So I realized something had to change. And I entered a training program, a somatic experiencing training program that was supposed to be, it was supposed to be to help my clients. I don't know if you've ever had this happen where you're like, you come across something and you're like, this is amazing. This is going to help my clients. And you dive into it and you realize, oh, it's helping me. Like I needed this. I'm the one that needed this.
Oh, wow.
So I found that somatic experiencing was something that my nervous system needed. And I suddenly started to see not just my clients from this lens of nervous system regulation, but my own needs from a lens of nervous system regulation and my practice's needs from a lens of nervous system regulation. And I think that was the beginning of me realizing that I can listen to my body, I can be in my body in a way that allows it to be really honest with me about what I need, both for my work, for my family, for my practice. And that was the beginning of my growth. It was being in alignment with what my nervous system was telling me was right. And I
Right.
went from being just a solo by myself, private practice therapist to I have almost 30 clinicians that work for me. We have 3 different sites,
Wow.
and I've surrounded myself with a team of administrative and business people that can do all the things that are not in alignment with my joy that I'm not they drain me rather than fill me. So I would say that's my biggest learning in this whole process has been that our body has so much more wisdom than our society gives it credit for. And we have to relearn, I think, things that intuitively at some point in our life we probably knew, but has been trained out of us. So, yeah, my biggest learning.
Wow, that you just inserted another completely different show in my brain. So we probably have to do a part two on that because I think that's a beautiful thing. I really appreciate you sharing that. One of the things that I got out of what you were saying is this idea that you weren't always good at business and you just took the tools. We get a certificate, go into the world, and we
Mm-hmm.
think that it's supposed to look like X. And
Mm-hmm.
then when it looks like that, we just happen to do it and never really deviate from that path. And that led to the burnout. It's like just the
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one clients. The business model really isn't very sustainable.
No,
So
it's
I
not.
appreciate you saying that. So I guess the follow-up question to that is once you saw that all these things are doing that, obviously you had that experience where you learned a lot about the nervous system and taking care of it. What was the mind shift set that you started to let go of some of those principles and say, okay, you know what, let me this way, and that led to your success.
Yeah, so I realized we talk a lot, I think, about core beliefs in
Hmm.
this field, in this industry, and that to make really dramatic shifts, we need to understand what our core beliefs are, and then we need to work on them. And understanding it is cognitive. And I got to a point where I understood okay, I have a hard time. If someone needs my help, I have a hard time saying no. I have a hard time saying no. I want to be, if I can offer you support and help in some way, I'm going to probably bend over backwards beyond my own system's capacity, my own time capacity to help. So, as an example, that learning of that about me was not enough for me to be able to change what I was doing, right? It did not mean that when someone called, I wasn't still looking in my schedule to try to find a hole where I could fit them in. It was really starting to understand my nervous system and reading my internal compass, for lack of a better way to describe it. When I got that phone call, what did my body say? Did it say yes? Or did it say, oh, but I got to say yes anyway?
Mm.
Did it have that pause? So learning to read that and learning to sit with that, like we need to change anything. We have to be in a place of discomfort in order for change. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. It can be hard to sit in your own yuck, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
It can be hard to sit in your own yuck. But to be able to pause, to recognize that my body is telling me something about whatever it is that's being asked of me. We're talking about our businesses right now, but it doesn't have to be your business, right?
Right.
It could be anything. It could be a responsibility at home, it could be something else out in the world. My body just had a response to that request, and what is it telling me in that response? And now, how do I sit with that long enough to understand and give an answer back that is much more in alignment with what my needs are? And I say that not in a selfish way, because I realized through this process that if we're constantly giving of ourselves, we deplete our reservoir, and you can't fill a cup from an empty well. I do think that there's a societal narrative around selfishness,
Hmm.
and particularly in the helping professions, I think it's a significant influencing factor behind why people burn out because we have this belief maybe not everybody, but a lot of us have this belief that to say no, to raise our rates, to say no, to set our schedule in a certain way that is in alignment with our needs, somehow selfish. And so that ties into the boundary setting. Yeah, just recognizing when my body is saying no, what does it feel like internally? And then letting that word actually come out.
Right.
It's a learning process.
Yeah.
It's a hard learning process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we all struggle with it, especially like you said, in the healing services where, you want to help everybody. I think that's interesting that you were getting onto something, and again, I could be completely wrong about this concept, but it's almost like, but didn't necessarily say no to these new folks. You created a business that allowed you to say yes.
And that was what was in alignment with me. We had a wait list, and a perfect example, about 2 years ago, I started getting an influx of calls, and I had already had my practice running. I had a pretty robust, I think we had yeah, maybe 20 clinicians at the time, but I was getting a lot of phone calls for people who are looking for help with children.
Okay.
And not only were the clinicians that worked for me completely full, none of them really specialized in working with kids. And we also didn't have a space that was really child friendly, for lack of a better word. Kids have certain needs, especially like in waiting rooms and in offices. In the therapy world, it's just a different kind of world. And so I was getting all of these calls and I kept having to say no, and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good, but it wasn't appropriate for me to say yes because I couldn't provide the service. So I started, and this is where like I think you follow your intuition and you're listening to your body and you're opening your ears to the possibility of something different happening. I started being open to this idea of what if we opened a dedicated space that was just for kids' mental health. And as my mind went in that direction and started envisioning it, I started meeting people that were like, oh, I do occupational therapy, that's sensory motor occupational therapy, and I love working with kids. Oh, I have this background in special education with a real focus on autism. Oh, I've done trauma. My education is in trauma work with kids. And these aren't people that worked for me at the time. These were just people that I was meeting, I was talking with, they were part of our community. And after a couple of months, I said, you know what? I think I have something here. And July of 2024, we opened our doors for a dedicated children's mental health center with 7 clinicians and occupational therapy that does sensory motor work with kids for mental health and neurodivergence. And it was in alignment. It was a lot of work. I'm not going to say it wasn't a lot of work, but it was in alignment with me wanting to help, but realizing that I didn't have the capacity until I put something special together. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's really just shows like you're really helping us out. Just so you know, because it is a mindset shift. Because I think a lot of people think that they have to do it on their own, first off. And the model is usually one-on-one. You went from like that model to basically a CEO over a time span. How quickly do you think a person should start thinking about that? I hate, you know what it is? I always say this, it's in my bio on my website. I wish I had an older brother, right? So that someone could just tell me, okay, you don't do that. Do this. You shouldn't have to learn every lesson on your own. I think that we tend to, in both fields, just either burn out, do something crazy, instead of even envisioning something that you was established. Is there a way around that?
Is there a way around that? Is there a way around that? I'm going to throw myself under the bus a little bit here. I didn't realize this at the beginning of it, but I think I'm what you call like a born entrepreneur. I have 1,000 ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a break on my ideas. I don't have that brake pedal on my ideas. Like I think of something and I can see it happening and it's go. So my growth really was between 2020 and now, and I went from about $150,000, and I think this year we're going to be grossing 1.8 mil at the end of the year, and that's a 5-year span. I wouldn't say I necessarily recommend people to do it that quickly, and I learned a lot over the time period. I think that it's important to dip your toes into the next step and take a little bit of time to, is the water too hot? Does this really work for me? Is this really in alignment with me? I think it's really important to get support. You might be a coach yourself, but that doesn't mean that you don't benefit from your own coaching and your own support system. So I have been a part over the last 5 years of coaching programs, individual one-on-one coaching, group coaching. I've done mindset work that's helped, I think, not just with understanding and shifting my own beliefs, but has also put me in community, which was the thing that was missing at the beginning. It was the thing that was missing, that I wasn't in connection with other people who were like-minded, who were we're not all trying to do the same thing, but we were on the same trajectory with the same ideas and like long-term goals of creating something that was like really meaningful to us and that was sustainable. So yeah, being a part of a community, I would say definitely look for your community, find your people, surround yourself by them, find your own coach or mentor or supervisor, or it's just someone that you can talk to about what it is that you're doing and bounce ideas off of. Those are all, I would say, like critical components of the growth.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's what's interesting is what I'm hearing from you too, is that I've had a sense that you had to invest in yourself from, I don't
Yes.
want to say from the beginning, but was it from the beginning?
It was interesting. It's interesting that you say that because I think I've always been interested in investing in myself. It's, I went back to graduate school and then I took a training program in this and a training program in that. But for a long time, I didn't see it as an investment in myself. I saw it as an investment in my career or in my investment in my clients. I have someone who's struggling with this and it's not an area I know a lot about, so I'm going to go take a class on it. The shift happened around about that burnout time when I discovered my own needs as a practitioner. The shift happened, and now it's this dual learning. It's this, I am doing this because it is an investment in myself. It's an investment in the longevity of my career. It's an investment in my own health, because if I'm stressed and burnt out, I liken it to like someone who has maybe like cholesterol buildup. Right? And you don't realize that you have it. It's just slowly accumulating. And then one day you have a heart attack and you're in the emergency room. Right? It's a similar idea. So it's, how do I recognize that's something that's building up in my nervous system over time so that I can make a change before I end up in the emergency room or before I quit entirely? That's the investment in myself. That's the spending the time with me. And it can look like investing in a coaching relationship or a mentorship relationship or a course that you're going to spend time with yourself on. I think it can also look like investing in your own routine and your own schedule. There's so much value in figuring out, what do I need to start my day? What do I need to intersperse throughout my day that's nourishing to me, that allows me to feel sustained and supported? How do I transition between clients? How do I get rid of the day at the end of the day? How do I shake it off before I come home and with my family? I think those are all different forms of investment in yourself.
Yeah, no, that's great that you brought that up because I don't think a lot of health coaches or people in general think about that at all. It's one of those things that I think a lot of people should take some time and start looking into things in ways that they can structure themselves and, like you said, shaking off that day and start. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I guess one of the things that I wanted to absolutely touch on before we run out of time, I know the time is going along and I see you keep 30 to 40 minutes and we're breezing through it. You're a great guest. What do you think was the biggest marketing angle that was most beneficial to your business?
That's a good question. That is a good question. I have dabbled in different marketing strategies over the years, and it's interesting. My being in as a therapist, I think that's a little bit different than coaching. I think and I do have a coaching business in addition to my practice. I have the Somatic Integration Institute, which is designed specifically to support practitioners. So the marketing for that looks very different than the marketing for my mental health practice.
Okay.
My mental health practice is very much, we're on insurance panels, we are on Psychology Today, we have a website, and it's a lot also of local networking. It's a lot of having relationships with primary care physicians and pediatricians and acupuncturists and chiropractors and massage therapists. It's a lot of that, and we get a lot of referrals from that network. The coaching side of things is different, right? Like you need to have a very robust online presence. You need to be able to share knowledge, share information, be of value to your community, be of value, offer something that they're going to get something out of. And then that makes that connection, and people will stay connected if you're offering them helpful information. So that can be we have our Instagram page. We do not have a YouTube page at the moment, something we're working on. We have our website. We put out blogs and articles so that there's this long form way to access people. We send out newsletters. We do free offers. Like I offer trainings every month. Sometimes they're free, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they have continuing education credits attached to them. Sometimes they don't. So we're exploring. It's a constant analysis of what are we doing that's getting people through the door and that's working, and that's going to shift and that's going to change. I know that there's been a big shift from the SEO to LLM. Getting into the AI database has been really important, and that's a whole learning curve in and of itself. Talk about coaching. Marketing coaching is probably a whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a thing. But one of the cool things is that with those two examples and those two tracks that you have, there's benefits being a health coach with the networking component and obviously the online component. So you can definitely take from those things. And I think that a lot of us forget that you rattled off a whole bunch of people who you network with. You did not mention health coaches.
It's interesting. I actually do network with health coaches, but as a practice. So personally, I would say there's there's different ways here. I love people. I'm a people person. I love talking to people. It is no skin off my back to sit down and have a conversation with someone, whether I think that they're directly related to the work that we're doing or not. I had a chat just a few weeks ago with an attorney.
Okay.
An attorney. Her work is I think she works with businesses and at a higher structural level.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to get direct referrals to my practice from her, but it's just that building, you have to see what is the bigger picture. Where am I going? I definitely do. It's funny I didn't say health coaches. I definitely do talk to health coaches. They are totally in my circle. They are not in my circle locally. Yeah. They're more like people that I'm connected with, maybe online through different groups, like Facebook, particularly for my age demographic, as it were, person in my mid-40s. There's a lot of groups online that might be dedicated to building your private practice, or therapists supporting therapists, or health coaching, and those groups are valuable spaces to be a resource, where if you're a part of them and you have information to give back and you can help answer people's questions and share what you have to offer in those spaces. So yeah, that is a form of networking. Skipped out of my mind. That is a form of networking.
Yeah. No, and I'm just teasing you because I know that health coaches forget that they are a part of that network a lot too, because a lot of us can get referrals from a doctor. The doctors don't have time to sit down and give you 40 minutes of just this talk. They got to get you in and out. So a lot of doctors refer you chiropractors, massage therapists. It's just that group and that ecosystem is legit. And I always implore the health coaches, hey, tap into that, because I think it is a cool way to get some business.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to think about what are the best ways for health coaches to become more prominent in that network as a spoke on that wheel, as it were. I think it is. As a therapist, we're working, particularly as a trauma therapist, I'm working with a lot of clients who have chronic health conditions because when you have, I don't know if you're familiar with the ACEs study from Kaiser Permanente back in the late 90s, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. So basically, this is a study that looked at a number of factors of negative childhood experiences, anything from divorce, abuse, neglect, and what are the long-term health consequences on a person who's gone through that. And the more adverse experiences you have, the more significant the potential of having a health consequence. And so as a trauma therapist, my clients have all gone through those adverse childhood experiences.
Yeah.
And they have health impact. Their the cortisol levels, the stress, like their nervous system has been in such a state of heightened activation for such a long period of time that it's affected their health. Coronary artery disease, autoimmune disorders, all sorts of physical manifestations of their trauma. I can help with some of that, but some of it is beyond my capacity. I'm not a health specialist. I don't have necessarily the nutrition tools. And to have people to refer a client to talk about that is critical. When we're working with kids, we refer parents sometimes to parent coaches. And sometimes we're working with kiddos. I'm thinking more specifically with kids right now because it's just something that's been on. I've been working in that part of my program a lot recently. Mm-hmm. A kid with ADHD or a kid with some neurodivergent tendencies, they're going to have some the nutrition is going to impact them. Physical activity is going to impact them. The family structure is going to impact them. And there's therapy that can be helpful. There's occupational therapy that can be helpful. And then there's coaching that can be helpful. Because At some point you have to take that all home and you have to implement it. And you have to figure out if I'm not implementing it, or as a family system, if we're not implementing it, what are the barriers and what are the hiccups, and who can have the best access to support making those changes. It might not be the 1 hour a week that they get with a therapist. That's going to be a piece of the puzzle, but it's not going to be the whole thing.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And we definitely are trying to approach all of these things in a holistic fashion, so I definitely could appreciate that. Health coaches and people who do what you do are all in the same ecosystem, so I think that's fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, you've been fantastic today, and I hope that I told you to keep it 30 to 40 minutes, and we're about at that mark. I do want to give you an opportunity to give us any parting words that you have as far as advice for health coaches starting out, and I also want you to give us how to keep in touch with all the good stuff that you're doing, social media handles, your website, and I know that you have an awesome gift to offer us as well.
I do. I would say for parting words, when you're making a decision, just take that moment to pause and check in with yourself. If you're making a business decision, whether it's changing your practice in a particular kind of way, expanding from one-on-one to one-to-many, bringing on people working underneath you, allow yourself time to sit with that decision and really be in your body in that decision, not just in the numbers. I think we get stuck in the numbers. What are the finances going to look like for this? And we don't give ourselves enough time to say, how is that actually going to feel for me and my body? What does it look like and how does that feel? Am I good with that? So I would definitely just encourage coaches to slow down, take a moment to really, and not just self-reflect, but be in their body in the decision making. In terms of getting in touch with me, you can find me on Instagram, Somatic Informed Therapies. We have a lot of tips and strategies and things that we put up there, so we'd love for people to follow us. And then I do have a special offer today, so it's just going to be available for maybe the next week or so, just exclusively for your listeners. You go to flourishingpractice.org/Omar. All right, and you're going to get access to what I call my Flourishing Practice System. And this is a system where you will have an opportunity to take your own personal burnout assessment. Where are you on that scale? You will get a 3-day Jumpstart Energy audit that will support you in looking at where is your time and energy going, and you should immediately be able to get about 5 or 6 hours back in your week.
Wow.
And then and this is something that is a special thing that I'm looping in. It is a webinar series that provides some of the information that I provide to my Catalyst Collective members. It's a community coaching group that is a pretty high level coaching group that supports aligning your practice and your business with your nervous system, your joy, your purpose. So it's a webinar series that dives into some of the really critical components of that. And so that is something that I'm offering to anyone listening for free right now. And I just encourage you guys to go check it out, flourishingpractice.org/Omar. Download it, get connected. And if anybody has questions, I reach out to me on my website, somaticintegrationinstitute.org. I'd love to chat with people and see how I can help and how I can support your listeners in growing their practices in a way that feels aligned with who they are.
Oh, wow. No, appreciate that. That's an awesome gift. And I definitely know the audience is definitely going to take it up. What's funny is while you were talking, I do have one kind of last exit point.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier about how you have that entrepreneurial mind, and I don't think that you would have been able to accomplish all you have to accomplish without that method of checking in, because you probably have 2 million things in your head, and if you don't have a way to align yourself with it, it's gonna be a problem. Because, like you said, it's so easy to just chase. I'm at fault with that. I have all these ideas, and I want to chase the shiny things and stuff, and yeah, if you're not in line with you don't understand how to control that, you probably lose your mind.
Absolutely. You'll get pulled in 10 different directions, and you'll be spread thin, and you won't be able to accomplish the depth of what you're actually looking to accomplish in each level. So yeah, what's calling you? Where does your heart pull you? And spend time to give yourself an opportunity to really feel into that.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to make your practice flourish. It's what's going to make you sustained, and ultimately it's what's going to make you financially successful.
Amen. All right, Helen, thank you. You've been awesome. Hope you have
Thanks,
a great
Omar.
rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.